Hi guys, here is Audrey Meyer with Rocky Snyder, and we are really excited today to welcome you to find your superpower, hack your body and mind to become unstoppable. So welcome Rocky, I'm really excited you are here today.
Oh, Audrey, it's such a pleasure. I'm glad you invited me. I wouldn't have missed this for the world.
That's great. Thank you so much. So guys, before we dive deep, I just want to make sure you guys grab a pen and a paper because there's going to be so much value out there, right? Rocky and me, we both surfer, we both fitness lover and both life lover. So we're going to give you some amazing tips about how you can really empower and perform at your best in all different place in your life. So before we start diving deep, Rocky, could you give us a little bit of a background about who you are?
Sure. Well, I'll be happy to. I have been in my training facility here for the last 24 years in Santa Cruz, California. And of course, that is the mecca for surfing on the West Coast, as far as I'm concerned. And I have my boards on the wall. So when I get cancellations, I just pluck them down, run down the street to Pleasure Point here and take a trip out onto the waves. And we always keep an extra suit in the closet and never know who might come in. But I've been a master trainer or certified strength conditioning specialist since the early 90s, right around 1992. I got a job in a local health club here, and it was just starting out with personal training. So I became certified as a trainer not long after, and have been doing it ever since. I opened up my studio in 96, and we see a wide range of people, from those that are just recovering from surgery, maybe been released from medical care or physical therapy, to world-class athletes, whether they're Olympians or NBA, Major League Baseball players or whatnot. And of course, being in Surf City, so to speak, we've got our fair share of big wave riders that are up the coast riding Mavericks, or just the local pros and recreational surfers here in town. But what I noticed with over the years of doing training is that with training often comes a lot of aches and pains. And partly what I noticed was a lot of those aches and pains came from the way programs were designed. So I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I've got some ideas as to how we can change the conventional way that we approach our workouts to make it so that we can reduce those pains and actually achieve a higher level of performance at the same time.
Love it. And here, just a little story before we start diving into the question. How Rocky and I, or how I met Rocky, I actually did 10 years ago my yoga certification with a friend, Peggy Hall, which is a mutual friend, and I went to California, and Peggy introduced me to Rocky. And a couple of days ago, I'm going through my library, and I'm like getting one of my book out. I don't know if you guys can see here, Fit for Surf. So guess who wrote the book? Rocky Snyder, right? So when I bought that book 10 years ago, I had no idea that 10 years later, I will be sitting here with Rocky Snyder talking about empowering and about boosting performance. This is so funny. So
It is. It is. You know, it happened honestly about 20 years ago in Santa Cruz. Of course, one of the big surf names here is O'Neill, for O'Neill Wetsuit. And Jack O'Neill, who passed away just a couple of years back, he's got several kids and grandkids. And as it would be, I've been training the O'Neill family, honestly, for the better part of 25 years now, including Jack before he passed away. And somewhere along the way, I think it was around 2000, 2001 or so, I just was scratching my head and said, you know, has anybody put together like a workout book or a conditioning guide for surfers? And they said, not as far as we know, and I think they should know. So I sat down and started creating that, and here we are. So
that's amazing. So do you know, Rocky, that I am actually an ambassador for O'Neill for more than 12 years. I used to compete on the Kiteboarding World Cup, and I'm sponsored by O'Neill. So this is really funny.
It's such a small world, how it all folds together. Yeah. Unreal.
Word. So you see, guys, this is why I'm so excited to have here Rocky on the show. And let's just start going right away into the subject, because Rocky today is going to talk about utilizing gait and posture for better strength and conditioning, right, Rocky? So you've been having your gym and your fitness center for a long time, and I'm sure you're seeing a lot of people going into in the gyms and working out, and I'm sure sometimes you must be like, whoa, what is going on here? So can you tell us a little bit about some downsides to how average person work out in the gym?
Certainly. Well, let's just for a moment think about posture, because that's a good fundamental foundation for this conversation. Now, we're not going to be properly, perfectly symmetrical left to right. I mean, we have one heart and our lungs are different shape. We've got a liver on one side of the body and so on. So even our internal structure is not completely symmetrical. However, the more balanced the body is, the more it's going to move better. The bones are in their proper position for the proper amount of space. Certain muscles are not pulling harder than other muscles, but there is this balance of tension throughout our entire body. And when the closer we get to that ideal, proper aligned position, the better everything works. You can go to an acupuncturist and they'll tell you the same thing as they apply needles and get your chi to flow, or a yoga instructor who puts you in certain poses to unlock restricted areas so that your chakras get aligned and everything flows. You could go to a chiropractor where they would manually adjust you in such a way where it would pull you back into a balanced place. In fact, martial arts, there's so many different elements or different approaches in the world of health and fitness that take that into consideration, except Western strength and conditioning. That is more or less fundamentally founded on the aesthetics of exercise, bigger, more beautiful muscles, so you can look fantastic come bikini season or whatever the case may be. Whether it's bodybuilding, powerlifting, or Olympic lifting, those are the majority of exercises people do in a gym. And those exercises are designed with a thought in mind that the body is properly aligned. However, that's where there is a problem, because the more advanced we get in society with technology and labor-saving devices, the more out of alignment our bodies begin to become. We adapt to our environment. And so now, especially with shelter in place throughout the world, more people are sitting or staying in place without really purposely moving their body. We have luxury wheelchairs we'll call automobiles. Or maybe if you want to get a little bit more activity, you can put your feet on an electric bike and you can crank around and still go for miles. You know, we have gotten to a point in our society with every passing year, the people that wander into the gym to try and get in better shape are more structurally distorted, more posturally malaligned. And now they're going to try and do exercises that are assuming that they are properly aligned. And that's not going to be the case. So then what happens? They're forced to compensate any way they can subconsciously to achieve whatever machine's desire it is or whatever exercise they choose. And the more they do that, yes, they'll get stronger and they'll feel like they're getting a good exercise. But under the surface, what begins happening is those compensations begin to put more wear and tear in certain areas of the body. It may create inflammation with those compensations. Before you know it, those muscles that were somewhat distorted are now actually finding a new way to be distorted. And before you know it, we start seeing examples of this in the form of tendonitis and bursitis and carpal tunnel and low back pain and headaches and migraines or runner's knee, plantar fasciitis, sciatic pain. We can see all of these accumulate with or without the gym, but they may be exacerbated when a person's trying to do something that a balanced body should perform, but it's an imbalanced body that's continually performing it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. You're so right. Yeah. So I love what you just say, because I see it all the time. And sitting is the new smoking, right? That's what people say. And especially Tuesday right now with what's going on with COVID, a lot of people sit a lot, either in the office, on the computer, on the sofa. So we just spend so much time into this poor poor position, which is just so bad for the posture. So Rocky, your approach is return to center. So what does that mean for you?
So I wrote the book. It's Return to Center, Strength Training to Realign the Body, Recover from Pain, and Achieve Optimal Performance. Pretty much says it right there. What I want to do is in this book, just offer an alternative to how you design programs with the exercises that you're already probably doing or that can be found in a fitness studio or a health club or gym. Right now, if you chose the way in which the majority of programs are designed, it's going to be one of mostly isolation. Yes, we do have functional training now, but many of those movements, if not performed properly, are just going to exacerbate the situation also and really reinforce the way in which you subconsciously compensate to get around your weaknesses or restrictions. So returning to center there's many levels to this. If we look at how a person walks, their gait pattern, one leg travels forward while the other travels back. And in just a glimpse of a moment, there is a moment where both return to center. And at that same time, both arms are swinging back to a center place. We're no longer over one leg, but we're getting ready to travel across to the other leg. And we find ourselves in this just finite moment in time where everything should be back into alignment. So with our gait pattern, there is this propensity to try and bring ourselves back to center. And if we think about it, anytime you do a lunge or any type of activity going back and forth, you're always trying to bring yourself back to a more balanced place.
Yeah.
So that is the key there is, can we find what you're missing in your movements and in your posture to maybe select better choices of exercises to do just that, to make you stronger by bringing you into a more balanced frame. Because somebody that is shifted off to one side, exaggerated as this is really overworking their body and is very inefficient in this position. If we were to bring the body back into alignment by letting certain muscles lengthen while other muscles have to work harder to pull it back, then we start to get ourselves into a place where all the joints are going to be better functioning. There's not going to be excessive load in one place where there isn't in another. It's really just, can we use exercise to counteract truly the effects of living in this modern world? And that's the key there.
I love what you just say in a way is that we are all different. We all have different lifestyle. We all are doing different sports and acting differently. And today you see so much on those workouts, one fit all, right? And it's just like, this is one of the other reasons when people get injured. And you mentioned it so well. You explained so well the reason why people get injured, because we are not the one fit all. When you buy shoes, you try many shoes before finding the good fit, right? So it's just so important. I just love what you say, Rocky. So when you work out with people, when you train someone, how do you select the right exercises for that person?
Oh, that's great. And I couldn't have said it better in regards to the individuality, because you could take two identical twins and their bodies will be different, maybe to a lesser degree than, say, complete strangers. But for the most part, they have gone through two separate life paths. Even though they may have been living together for years, we bring in injuries, in surgeries, accidents, and we haven't even spoken about emotional issues that could trigger a physical response in the body. All of these things come into play, and we have to figure out the most efficient way in which to deal with these situations. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is this magic reset button we can push anytime we get injured that restores us back to where we need to be. Physical therapy can be a wonderful tool, and so can modern medicine. But unless the body is truly fully rehabilitated back into proper joint mechanics and how muscles really should work through every step of the way, then chances are people are still holding on to a shadow of their previous injuries and have found ways to get around it. And now everything they do is founded on that new compensatory pattern. So to your question about how do I determine what movements or exercises are going to be best for a person, there's several ways. In fact, within the book, I offer 3 assessment approaches. One is simply to get an understanding of where a person's weight is in relation to the bottom of their feet. Do they feel more weight in their heels or in the balls of their feet? Do they feel a little bit more on one foot compared to the other? Do they feel maybe more weight in the heel of one foot while they feel more weight in the ball of their foot? And I know that there is a relationship amongst all the joints in the body. And the way the bones are shaped will only allow certain movements to really occur. And with gravity's force coming down upon the body or pulling on it, those joints will behave in certain ways, shifting your weight in various places. So knowing what the body is doing based on where the foot pressure is, we can map out the entire body for the most part and get a pretty good understanding of what movements they may benefit from to restore them back into a more balanced place. That's one way of doing it. We can also do a posture assessment. Where are a person's shoulders relative to their hips? Where is the spine relative to the knees, the feet, the head, and so on? How do they carry their structure? Because if I have a person coming in with one shoulder slightly elevated, what does that tell me about the muscle tissue that's holding it there compared to the muscle tissue on the other side? Can you get the sense that this side is more compressed and shortened, while this is more under tension and being lengthened like a rubber band being pulled apart? The stimuli that's going to those 2 areas are going to be quite different. So I might want to stimulate them in a different manner too. I might take the shoulder that's down low and experience what it's like to bring it up, while at the same time encouraging that shoulder to drop down. So this is where we break away from the barbell routines of we must do the same thing on the left as we do on the right. Well, what if my left shoulder is doing something completely different than my right shoulder, and my right shoulder needs something completely different than my left? So that's where we kind of bring in the posture and get a better sense of maybe what's missing there. And now the third way is to take the components, the breaking down the components of how we move through space, which is our gait cycle. Now, for those not familiar with gait, it is basically one cycle is when one heel strikes the ground when you're walking, and the very next time that same heel strikes the ground, that is one full gait cycle. Now, in that time, there's a lot of movement going on. You'll be amazed, 360 joints moving through 3-dimensional space over the course of less than 1 second, being able to flex and extend and rotate left and right and side bend left and right. And all of this we do subconsciously. But still, the basic elements are, can we look at the pelvis and how well does it tilt forward and backwards, glide to the side, tilt to the side, and rotate left and right? If you were to do that yourself, just standing and getting a sense of it, most likely you are going to feel different in different areas. Maybe I can rotate well in one direction, but not so well in the other. Well, how is that going to carry over to your favorite sports, whether you're a surfer, a soccer player, or a tennis player? If you're noticing restrictions in your movement, that's going to carry over quite well and force you to compensate out there, making it more likely that you're going to get a non-contact sports injury somewhere down the road. If we can allow for freedom of movement with strength, control, and flexibility, then that's the key. So I'll do the same thing to the rib cage as well as the shoulder. And then that's going to give me a tremendous amount of information as you interview the body. What movements are going to be probably the ones I want to start with as a fundamental foundation, and can I make it more complex as we go?
I love that. I love what you just say in the 3 different parts, because once you have those assessments, that's how you can really help people move forward, do progress, really take notes, and really program a long-term plan, right, to be able to progress and improve. And you were talking about athletes, but I just want to make sure, well, about everyone, I just want to make sure that we all have asymmetric in a body, right? You don't need to be a surfer like you, Rocky, or myself, or a tennis player or a soccer player. It's like anyone, even if you don't do any physical activity or just walking your dog, carrying your baby, we all have one side which is more efficient, one side which is stronger than the other, and then we all develop those asymmetric sides. So that's so much knowledge. I just love that you're really looking at the entire body as a wall environment.
Yes, and it's constantly adapting to its environment. At no point in time does our bodies just stop moving or adapting. Whether we're just sitting for hours or out running a marathon or over the course of years, we're constantly in the state of flux. So that brings up a question about how often should I change my program? Because there's so many people out there that have found an exercise routine that feels really good for them. It probably gave them great benefits over the course of so many months, and they haven't bothered necessarily to change it because it feels good. Now, has it continued to encourage further progress? Well, that might be the case, but most likely the progress has subtly descended down, and it doesn't seem to be occurring as often as when they first had it as an onset. So in regards to your program design, like the programs we have with our clients, we will actually change it quite frequently. We actually may change it with if every visit, depending upon the people and when what we're seeing. But we'll definitely change it every 30 days at the minimum, so that the body, for instance, Audrey, you right now, your lifestyle has changed quite dramatically in the last 2 months. No longer are you able to go out kite surfing or foil surfing to the extent that you would like. And your training has changed too. How do you think that's affected your body? Now, you may have been having a conditioning program at the onset of this shelter in place, but is it going to be the same as it is here we are 10, 11 weeks later, 75 days later, whatever the count is? I would expect it to be considerably different because your world has changed. And so we need to make accommodations for that. And I think that's where we get into trouble sometimes is people will continue to do the same program and they will have gotten away from their daily activities and their regular habits. And then they may even gotten away from the workout itself. And then the gyms open up once more. How many members of health clubs do you believe will re-enter into those scenarios when the doors open up to their favorite gym, and they're just going to jump back into the same program they did prior? But their bodies have changed, even though it's minor, maybe some more major, but that's also kind of a recipe, not for disaster, but for maybe problems arising. We've got to be aware of where our body is in the now, in the moment, and what do I need to feed it to make it better? So in my own personal program, I do an assessment before I begin my routine. And you'd be surprised. Some days I am really surprised that my body is not moving the way it should. And I actually have to do different things than I was consciously planning for my day. All the plans are out the window, and now something else has come up where, oh, wow, I don't know how that happened. Maybe it was that 3-hour surf session I had on those big waves that came through, and that's why this hip is locked up. Oh, I think I need to address all of these issues. And what do you know? I walk away feeling stronger, more vibrant, more flexible, and I'm ready for another 3-hour session or whatever the case may be.
I love, Rocky, that you're talking about assessment because first of all, yes, it's very important at this time of the year because when the gym's gonna open, first thing I'm gonna do myself. I have a trainer, I have a friend who's training me. I know we're gonna go to the gym. He's gonna assess me, right? Because for all the reasons you just say. But beside that, I like to put the assessment close to being flexible, especially with what's going on right now in the world. We actually have to learn to change things because of different things going on in their life. So this is so true. Like people realize like, yeah, I need to be flexible because of my work, of that, of my time, of my kids, but be also flexible on your own body. Realize that it's been changing for the good, for the better. And it's so right to remember us about assessing, doing this assessment.
And to that point, each movement that you perform in your workout is an assessment in itself. At least that you should consider that. It's not just a strength test or an endurance test. What is your stamina like? But it really can be assessed just by the quality of your own movement. And if There's other ways within the book that I've explained that we can assess in real time, and that's by utilizing the brain, basically your autonomic nervous system. For instance, there'll be times where, let's say, you are driving erratically and racing down the roadway, and a police car pulls onto the road and starts chasing you, and you look through your rear view mirror. You go right into a stressed environment. And that stress is called a sympathetic response. That sympathetic response is going to shorten your breathing. It's going to restrict your peripheral vision so you become tunnel visioned. It's going to affect your balance and make it a little bit more compromised. Your strength levels will decrease, as well as your flexibility, because you're so tense. Now, that's an extreme case of a sympathetic response, but every movement you do in a gym is going to elicit some type of response. It can be sympathetic, or it can elicit something that's a little bit opposite of that, called a parasympathetic response, which is allowing the body to open up, widening the field of vision, allowing your strength levels to get up to an optimal level where you're at your strongest. And now we don't want it to be too far up here in the sympathetic and too low in the parasympathetic, but we want it to meet in the middle, and that's where we achieve that zone. That's when you're feeling in the zone. So I actually will give people, as simple as this, a single leg balance assessment in between every exercise they do. Did your single leg balance improve? If it improved, that's great. We want that improvement, and that's the exercise we'll keep in your program right now. If you found yourself wobbling and compromised on that single leg, well, you were too stressed. Now, either the exercise caused that stress because you did it improperly, or you added too much weight, or there were some elements we can kind of look at, but now we have something we can pick apart to see how can we make that response better. So there's no guessing necessarily here. This is all about how your nervous system, the motor neurology of your body, responds to the stimuli you feed it in the form of exercise.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you just say. That's great. And Rocky, remind us where you are, because people are listening at you and they're like, I want to go and visit him. So just tell where you're located, because I wish I would live in California. You would be my trainer.
Well, you know, that is the nice thing with Zoom meeting and all these online video conferencing. My 5-mile radius here in Santa Cruz, California, where the majority of my clients reside in, have exploded. So I do have clients throughout the nation, and actually internationally. I'll say I've got some people in Canada, and every now and then somebody over in Europe or the UK, and I've got people across the country here. And I do have some opportunities, but for the most part, we're here in Santa Cruz. And return to CTR.com or RockySnyder.com. There's a whole bunch of ways to get a hold of us here, but Rocky's Fitness Studio in Santa Cruz, California is where we are currently.
Awesome. And I know you have an amazing gift for the audience. So can you tell us a little bit about?
Yes. Okay. We were talking about foot pressure and how we can create more or less a hypothesis based on biomechanics about what the rest of the body might be doing. So I know a lot of people enjoy foam rolling these days, and so self-myofascial release, getting restricted areas to be rolled out so they may be more pliable and we can move better. The thing is with that is that most people will go to the same spots over and over. They'll grab the foam roller off of the wall in the gym, they'll put it on the ground, and they'll roll over the same spots, perhaps expecting a different result, but chances are it's going to be the same thing over and over, which of course is the definition of an insanity. So rather than doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, let's try a different approach. I'm including this little download PDF file, and you may have to blow it up because the print is a little small because there's a lot of information on it, but it has these 2 bare feet right in the center of the form. And outside of the feet are these arrows, and they will point straight up or out to the side, down below, like north, south, east, and west. But then there's also arrows going northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. And what that means is as you're standing in bare feet, you can close your eyes or just get comfortable and figure out where is the mass of your body transferring in as it relates to your feet. Is it shifting more toward the forefoot of your right side, or is it more toward both heels? Wherever the direction's going, you're going to follow those arrows on the sheet, and there'll be a list of muscle tissue, that it will be your target. And you can choose from any of those on your list. Then after you've rolled out those areas, do a reassessment and find out, how does your foot pressure feel now? Is it still where it was, or has it changed? That's really what we're looking for, is can we create change in the body? Now, I'm not saying that it's going to go perfectly balanced, but where you've been residing is somewhere where we need to take you and experience somewhere different. So that foot pressure map, as we call it, is really targeting the muscles that are being shortened because your body is shifting away from that area. Think about it this way. When you glide your hips over to the right side of your body, those bones are causing those muscles to get longer over there. What's happening over to the side where the bones are moving away from? Well, those muscles are shortening up. So therefore, we've got muscles that are really long, and they're slowing down so that you don't fall over that way. So these are contracted, and they're very active in their lengthened position, while these over here are very passive, and they're allowing it to occur, and they're just naturally just taking up the slack. So we're going to work on the shortened tissue. And 85% of the time, people really respond well to rolling out the shortened tissue. I will say this, I only gave you one form. There's another one that's lengthened tissue, but all you have to do is, if that didn't work for you, hitting the shortened tissue, try the opposite side of the poster, because that will give you the lengthened tissue to target. But for the most part, the foot pressure is all about trying to bring your body back into alignment, whether you do this before or after your workout. I typically encourage people to do it before activity so that they're in a better spot, so that they're more efficient to begin with. And there is the giveaway for this portion of your coaching.
Love it. So guys, it's just right below the interview. So click on that link, go and check it out. This is so beneficial, right? And I just want to make sure that it's beneficial for everyone. You don't need to be a surfer or an athlete to do that. Anyone, especially those ones who are not moving, anyone can benefit of this generous free gift from Rocky. So thank you, Rocky, so much. This just been like some amazing information. If you guys want to know more about Rocky, go and check his book.
Yeah, this Return to Center, and it is out at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can also go to mascotbooks.com or just go rockysnyder.com.
Here we go. You guys know everything. Rocky, thank you so much. Guys, I will see you tomorrow with another amazing interview. I wish you a great day. So go out there, enjoy the sun, enjoy the sunset now, and have a wonderful day. See you guys tomorrow. Bye. Bye, Rocky.
Bye, Audrey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.